Welcome everybody inside Center Ice Arena here in Traverse City, Michigan for our 2022 training camp streams presented by Huntington Bank. I'm Daniela Bruce alongside Ken Cal and Carly Johnston. This fine morning, you guys, day one of training camp, a lot to look forward to.
Really excited to be here as always. We saw the Prospects tournament and boy, what fun that was, Daniela and Carly. And there's nothing like it. It's the beginning of hockey season and the beginning of good things for the Red Wings this season.
That's for sure.
Yeah, they say today is the first day of fall, and it really feels like a first day of training camp as well. I can't be more excited to get things started here.
That's right. We've got Team Del Vecchio on the ice right now. Some big names. Jacob Verana's on this team. Michael Rasmussen, Giovanni Smith, Jonathan Berggren, David Perron, Cross Hannes, Joe Veleno, and there's more too. Mo Sider, Ben Sherrod on the defensive side. We'll see Sebastian Kosa, Alex Nedeljkovic for goalies. And it looks like right now they're working on some defensive zone coverage, and it's just exciting to see everybody back on the ice. So we're going to follow some of these players around today, and I hope that you all get to enjoy it.
Well, defensive zone coverage is something obviously that the Red Wings want to work on. We heard from Steve Yzerman yesterday in his press conference, and when you give up over 300 goals against, obviously you've got to cut that number down to get better. And it's not just the goaltenders, it's everybody. It's the defensemen chipping in, it's the forwards coming back. And the one take that I got out of Steve Yzerman yesterday, Danielle and Carly, is that the forwards have to be more defensive responsible. And sometimes, as Steve said, when you're playing your best hockey, it's not that you're scoring goals, it's that you're responsible in your own zone and helping your teammates out in your own end. So that's one of the things, obviously, that this team needs to improve upon if they want to get more wins, more points in their division.
That is one thing we were talking about Jacob Verana, and Yzerman said yesterday in his presser that he's really good with the puck. He's quick to get it off his stick, but he needs to see better defensive play. He wants to see him improve in more aspects of his game. Coming off of that shoulder surgery, he only played in 26 games last season. So looking for a full season this year and hoping that he improves on those things, as Yzerman was mentioning.
Again, we're getting a look at a couple of the newcomers when it comes to free agents that were signed in the offseason in David Perron, Ben Sherrod out there as well. What are you looking forward to about seeing how these guys mix in with some of our Red Wings players?
David Perron, he's the ultimate consummate veteran. He's been around the National Hockey League. He understands what he needs to do, and I'm happy that he's here because the Red Wings need some offense as well. And the thing about David Perron is, even though he's 32 years old, he still has that scoring touch, and he's really going to help the Red Wings on the power play. We talk about special teams and how critical they are in winning in the National Hockey League. The Red Wings were towards the bottom third of the power play and penalty kill last year. So if you can get Verana healthy, it'd be interesting, as you mentioned, Carly, to see him play a whole season injury-free. I think he can score maybe 25, 30, maybe plus goals, and that's going to help out. David Perron will help on that power play too. But one of the things that I'm really looking forward to, Carly and Daniela, is the fact that there's some depth now on this Red Wing team, and that's something that just wasn't there perhaps maybe a couple of years ago or even last year.
We love that. We don't really know before the stream we came on here. We were trying to figure out what the lineup would look like and what pairings and what lines would look like. And we couldn't really figure it out because there are so many outstanding players that we have, which is an awesome problem to have for a Detroit Red Wings organization.
And just to follow up on the players that you asked me about, Ben Sherrod, I always said we needed a shutdown defenseman. He's that kind of guy that can fit that role. Big, solid defenseman. And if he teams up with Mo Sider, I don't know what the pairings are going to be for Coach Lalone. We'll just have to wait and see. But if he pairs up with Mo Sider, those are two big bodies. And what it does is it just takes away area in front of the net. So that's really going to help the Red Wings. And Dominic Kubalik is a guy that did score 30 goals in the National Hockey League one year with the Chicago Blackhawks. He's a big, strong forward on the wing. And he can provide some muscle around the board, and he can score too. He's got that scoring touch. So overall, if the Red Wings play better defensively and some of these guys can chip in more offensively with goals, and let's not forget the top line last year that really carried this team with Bertuzzi, Larkin, and Lucas Raymond. If all of those lines can get together, boy, they're going to have it's going to be a fun team to watch this year.
Carly, you mentioned the depth. Let's look at the injuries that we're going to see at the beginning of the season. Steve Yzerman addressed the media yesterday and provided an update on those for us. The new one that none of us really knew about was Andrew Kopp. He underwent abdominal surgery, so he will not be available throughout training camp or the preseason. They are hoping to have him ready by the start of the season, or at least the first week of the season. You see Jake Wallman will be out and expected to return in mid-November. Robbie Fabry tore his ACL last year, expected back in January, along with defenseman Mark Pesic, who tore his Achilles after he was signed. And then He did mention Chase Pearson was out indefinitely with personal reasons, so we won't see Chase Pearson here at training camp. He was a staple in Grand Rapids, got some time with the Red Wings last season, but that means there are some spots open, right? Especially on the blue line. We talk about guys like Simon Edvinsson stepping in, maybe an Albert Johansson, or even up top when we don't have Robbie Fabry in the lineup, that's going to leave a big hole. So someone's going to have to step in.
Well, that's another good reason that we have this depth here in this organization. Yesterday, Steve Yzerman, when talking about those guys who are injured and people who can fill their slots and just any position in general, he said, quote, I have to produce and perform to get ice time. That could go for veterans, that could go for rookies, that could go for anyone in this organization who wants that ice time. They have to fight for it. And that's a great thing to have. We love seeing the competition within the organization because that means that the best is going to win the ice time, and we're going to look at a much better Detroit Red Wings team this season.
And back on the blue line, Carly and Daniela, Robert Hagg is a new guy that the Red Wings picked up in the offseason. He's a veteran defenseman, played for the Philadelphia Flyers. He's a guy perhaps that could fill in a void or role. He knows how to play in the National Hockey League already, and there are some injuries right there on the blue line. The other thing is we talked about this in the prospects tournament, is this kind of opens the door a little bit for Simon Edvinsson.
Sure.
And, you know, if he continues to play well, like I thought he did in the prospects tournament, they're going to give him every opportunity to play in the preseason games. He could maybe slide into one of those positions because of the injuries back there on the blue line.
Coach Alone was talking about yesterday in his presser that not only do we have all these preseason games where we get a better look at these guys in gameplay, but they have the 8 exhibition games. So it's really been a good look at these Detroit Red Wings players.
And Daniela, I know you're the one that's moderating this interview here, but I know you have some thoughts about this year's team going in, and I want to hear what your thoughts
Ken.
are.
I have no thoughts, none at all. I'm just really interested to see if we can notice the difference under a new coaching staff, right? As long as I've been here, Jeff Blashill was kind of running the show. Obviously, there's a new look and some new direction for this team. Coach Alone is out there now with Team Del Vecchio. I'm excited to see what direction he takes this and what practices are going to look like, because obviously, as you mentioned, Ken, the goals for this team are to tighten up defensively. They got better over the offseason, some of the additions that they made, and we can't forget about Oscar Sundqvist, who was a late trade. He was acquired in the trade for Nick Leddy from St. Louis. That's another guy that brings some offense to this team, and he's big and he's a strong forward, and he was battling a little injury last year. So now that he's coming back completely healthy, he's another exciting player. I think there's a lot to be excited about, and I think there's some spots to be earned. The one next direction I wanted to go in is we talk about those spots to be had. There are some players on this team that maybe we would consider bubble players, right? So out on the ice with Team Del Vecchio, you've got Giovanni Smith out there, Jonathan Berggren, Joe Veleno. There's some more out there too, but this could be a huge training camp for them. This training camp and preseason are most important for guys like that who need to earn their ice time, as you said.
Well, before we talk a little bit about that, just going back to your Derek Lalonde comment, Daniela, you're right about him coming in. It's a new coaching staff. There's, 3 or 4 new coaches under him. Alex Tanguay is the only coach coming back for Detroit. But with that said, this is no magic formula. Like, just because the Red Wings have a new coach, it's not going to be instant success. I mean, he's got to understand his team. His team has to understand him and how his coaching works. And so it's going to take some time. As I mentioned yesterday, you and I were talking. It's a transition right now between Blashill now and Lalonde. And like I said, things aren't going to happen overnight, whether it's good or bad. It's going to take some time. We've got to go through the process of a new coach, his techniques, and the ability to get that information out to the players. Now, going back to Giovanni Smith and some of the players like Veleno and Smith, you're absolutely right. They've been in the organization now for many, many years, and there's not a lot of spots open up front for this team. So competition, right, Hirose played most of his career last year in the American League in Grand Rapids, but time's ticking away on these players, and there's not a lot of room up front for some of these guys. And then you look at a guy like Jonathan Berggren, who has an opportunity to make this team too. So what does that happen, and what does that say to Giovanni Smith and Joe Veleno and some of these other guys?
Yeah. This is where, I hate to put a silver lining to an injury, but this is where injuries can give guys like this an opportunity to showcase what they're really made of and the talent that they have, including those preseason games and, of course, training camp. But Coach Lalonde was saying to you, Ken, what you were mentioning about what the changes will be in the structure. He said there will be changes to the structure, and it'll take some time to build chemistry. He's really trying to focus on the defensive play, as you mentioned, Daniela. Playing without the puck, and team structure, the theme of the team, and as I mentioned, chemistry. So that's a lot to build in a team who has been on the slow but steady incline, but still has a lot of work to go.
Yeah, that's right. When we talk about guys that are trying to make the cusp, you know, they're trying to prove themselves, right? They're trying to earn that ice time, earn that roster spot. Guys like Joe Veleno and Giovanni Smith, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they would have to clear waivers before heading down to Grand Rapids, right? So they would have to clear waivers before the Red Wings would be able to send them to Grand Rapids. So it makes it even tougher on them, right? Because there's no guarantee that they are going to clear waivers at that point.
And they're good hockey players, and you could lose them for nothing, right? So, you know, it's really calculated on how you're going to use them. If you do bring them up, let's say Giovanni Smith starts out in the American League, then you bring him up. You know, he's going to have to clear waivers, like you mentioned, and you hope somebody doesn't take him for nothing. So there's always that option that you could lose a player like that.
Again, how about the goaltending we're seeing here today? Sebastian Kosa, Alex Nedeljkovic, and Jussi Okanora, who is expected to be in Grand Rapids. Alex Nedeljkovic obviously on the big club, and Sebastian Kosa, probably the biggest question of training camp when it comes to goaltending. Where exactly is the next spot for Sebastian Kosa's development?
And that's going to have to play out through not only the prospects tournament, but maybe a couple of games that he's going to play in as far as the preseason for Sebastian Kosa. You and I saw him in the tournament, prospects tournament, and he was terrific. Him and Jan Bednar, I thought, were the two best goaltenders that played for Detroit in that tournament. Kosa gave up 1 goal in 2 half games played, and Bednar was just terrific in his last game, not giving up a goal on 19 shots. But it'll be interesting to see, and this is why I like training camp, Daniela, because I want to look at Sebastian Kosa, and I want to see how he is against true professionals.
Right, NHL players, yes.
These forwards like David Perron and, Lucas Rama, they're paid to score, right?
Right.
And so they're professional. They want to beat a goaltender, so it's up to the goaltender now to raise his level each and every step up that he goes.
Right, it's a big test for guys like Sebastian Kosa and some of the guys out in front of him as well that are trying to earn those spots, like a young Simon Edvinsson or Elmer Soderblom, who had a good prospect tournament as well. Going back to goaltending with Sebastian Kosa, yesterday, Steve Yzerman said that the biggest thing for him is playing games. They want him to play. So I don't know if he benefits very much from being the backup in Grand Rapids at this point in his career. So they're going to put him somewhere where he can get into games and hone in on those skills that he's learned over the summer, spending it here in Detroit.
Well, that's a good point. And just to follow up on that, Daniela, like if you send him back to Edmonton, he's already exceeded at that level, you know, like, so if he's going to play in the American League, then he's going to have to play a half a season, but practicing is good for him too. And if he can play half a season with the American League team in Grand Rapids, then that's just going to boost himself and his career as well. But again, he's got to prove that he can play at that level.
That's right. And Carly Johnston headed down, and she's got Sean Horcoff joining her right now. Carly.
That's right. Thanks, Daniela. All right, we're down here on the boards. A little cold here at Center Ice Arena, but you kind of love you take a breath of fresh air. First day of fall, we were talking about how cold it is inside and outside of the rink today.
Yeah, it's freezing today, but we got lucky here the last prospect tournament. Even yesterday was some beautiful weather, but this is starting to turn into hockey weather pretty quick.
Exactly. Fall means hockey, so let's talk a little bit about that. We just wrapped up prospects tournament where the Detroit Red Wings team went 2-1. What did you like what you saw from the prospects in that tournament?
Actually, a lot. I thought we played great. I think, a lot of our prospects, we got a lot of young guys kind of turning into pros this year, coming in and obviously fighting for jobs in Detroit and Grand Rapids. And, I think there's numerous guys, but I thought our goaltenders played well. Both Jan and Coast played very, very good throughout the tournament. Soderblom, Hannes, Lombardi, probably a few of the names that really stood out, but really everyone throughout the whole entire lineup, really showed well, so we were happy with it.
All right, so when you look at this prospects, obviously there's a lot on the line here, but we want to talk about someone who we had as a camp invitee, Riley Piercy. He actually led the whole tournament in goals with 5. What and how important is it to invite guys that you don't have in your organization to showcase what they're made of and how they can fit into this organization?
It's really important. We put actually, tell you the truth, this year we put a lot of focus on that in general, kind of looking through our lineup, knowing what we had with a lot of players that we've drafted before being in college or back in Europe. We knew we were going to have a lot of, invites just to put a lineup together. So I thought our amateur scouts did great. Drapes and Dan Cleary was really involved with it. And I thought, we had quite a few guys that came out on invites and really showed well. Piercy being one of the guys, obviously got into a fight, 4 goals his first game. And but he's a big kid and he moves pretty good, plays a gritty style and has some some offensive touch. So it was obviously we're going to watch more this week here, but he really showed well, and it was we're happy for him.
We were talking about depth, Ken Daniela and I upstairs, but we also heard that from Steve Yzerman yesterday, speaking to the depth in the organization. How important is it when we look at the few injuries that we have in the Detroit Red Wings team? How important is it to have that depth in an organization?
Well, it's really important. I think you saw it last year with our team. Down. I think in February there was one point we had 6 or 7. PTOs from guys because we were hurt up in Detroit, and had a few injuries down in Grand Rapids. So it made it difficult for us to, obviously, we were unable to make the playoffs, but up until that point, we were competitive, looked like we were going to make it, and then we fell out. So depth is important for that reason, but also it's important to create that internal competition, right? Amongst these guys as teammates to push each other to get better, to find that next level, and really that's how I think organizationally wide, you get these guys to get the most of their ability is to have that competition for playing in roster spots.
Talking about grabbing a few guys from within the organization and some invitees, the goalies, you have quite a number of goalies here at camp. Are you trying to figure out the situation down in Grand Rapids? I know we have a new one in Billy Husso as well for the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, obviously with Billy coming in and Ned, they're going to be our guys obviously in Detroit. We signed Ukunara this year to come in and push for a spot there, and really if he's in Grand Rapids, kind of lead the way for us there. And and then there's Coach. We're going to have to obviously make some decisions there. He's played well so far, and I think that's what training camp is, and through exhibition series, just to kind of see where some of our younger guys are at, where they fit in, and really for the younger guys, it's most about where is it best for their development. Where are they going to get the most games, and where are they going to be able to develop the most. The goal for those, for Bednar and Coach specifically, because they're younger, is to turn them into into starters in the NHL, and that takes time. Goalies, it takes a little bit longer for them just because only one guy can play in the net, right. And you need to play hockey, and you need to face some as many games as possible to develop that. So time will tell, but like I said, it's at this point it was a good start for those guys in the prospect tournament.
Player development seems to be a key factor for the Detroit Red Wings organization. How important is it to see and watch these players develop throughout the years and not rush getting them to the NHL?
It's extremely important. I think, it's no secret for us if we want to get back to where the Red Wings were of the past. We're going to have to develop from within. In a salary cap world, it's impossible to go out there and just buy guys now. You can't do that. So drafting is obviously the first and foremost thing. I think, Drapes and his staff has done an incredible job here the last few years. And now you're starting to see some of these guys turn pro, which is exciting for us, and I think development staff in general, because, there's been so much effort put into, to both, off-season, in-season development of all of our prospects here the last few years. It's just, we're excited to see what we get. But, we're lucky, obviously, Nick, we got, Nick Cromwell over there now. Nick Lidstrom's involved in Europe. Obviously, Danny here. We've got a great staff with, Dwayne Blaise and the skating coaches and the Tuttons. So, we put a focus into it a few years back, and we're hoping to start to see some of the results of those labors here coming up this year.
A lot of the chatter seems to be surrounding Simon Edvinsson and whether or not he will be able to crack the lineup for the NHL. Looking at him, are you trying to temper expectations for fans? Or is it a situation where you're like, it could be a Lucas Raymond situation where he is on the fast track to the NHL?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, fans-wise, they can get as excited as they want. I think we're excited for him as a prospect, but in terms of our philosophy has always been the same here, and it starts with, when Steve first got, these guys are going to make their play is what's going to dictate if he's ready or not. So it's going to be up to Simon throughout, camp and exhibition season to come in and just prove that he's ready for the NHL. And, we're obviously he's not going to be given anything, and, he's going to earn the minutes that he gets. And at the end of the day, he's no different than any of our other young guys. Our concern is, where's Simon going to be in 3 or 4 years, and how good of a player can he be? And, our focus for him is development, and in order to develop, he's got to play, he's got to be in all situations, and he's got to be successful. And, there's obviously going to be ups and downs, but he's got to be able to go out there and be successful in those spots. So, we'll see what happens with Simon here, but he certainly has the tools to be to be a very good NHL player.
Another player I do want to talk about who had a great prospects tournament is trying to crack the lineup, either lineup in Grand Rapids or Detroit, is Cross Hannes. He seems like he's really found his own and looks a lot more confident out there on the ice.
Yeah, Cross is a kid that's put a lot of work in the last couple of years. I think when we drafted him, he's a great kid first off, and he was honest. He knew there was a lot of work to be put in, and physically, I think he had to put a lot of strength on. He's put a lot of work into his skating, and that's been 2 summers in a row now, full summers, and I think now you're starting to see, the results of all that work. He had a great prospect tournament. I think he's put about 10 pounds on since last year. His skating has really improved. He's able to do more things now at the pro game that his physical abilities and brain want him to do. He just wasn't able to do that when he was younger, So I think for him, he's like anyone else. He's hungry for a spot in the NHL, and if it doesn't work out for him there, we're going to have him in Grand Rapids and give him as big of a role as he can handle, and hopefully he takes it and runs with it.
I know we're talking a lot about the Detroit Red Wings team, but the players who don't make the Red Wings could possibly go to the Griffins. This is going to be a stacked organization on both ends of the spectrum. How excited are you for both the Griffins and the Red Wings?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think, like I said, we have a lot of young players in the lineup throughout. Both forward, goaltending, defense to look forward to. I think we did a good job of bringing some veteran players in that are just good pros. They do it the right way. They're also good players, and we hope that these older guys are going to lead by example and really just help our younger guys kind of develop. But there's lots. Elmer Soderblom's turning pro. Albert Johansson this year. Pontus Andreasen was a signed player that's coming over. Cross Hannes is going to be in here. So we're excited because Albert Johansson as well. So. A lot of these guys that, and they're not just kind of that young. They're not, 18, 19. These are some guys that have played some pro over in Europe before, and we do expect them to come in and vie for a spot in the NHL team, but if not, play an impactful role for us in Grand Rapids. And so it's exciting. It's going to be exciting for everyone.
Briefly stepping away from the players for a bit, a new coaching staff. Almost talked about them. What is it going to be like trying to build that chemistry between the players and the coaches and build that structure? Yeah,
the structure, I think, Newsy touched on that in our first meeting here with the guys right away. I think he built a clear picture on the things that he wants to focus on early, and it's going to be defense and structure. And I don't think the chemistry. I don't think it's going to take that long. All these guys, all the new staff that's here, they're great people and very outgoing, and they're going to demand hard work and attention to detail for our players. And us as a management staff is really looking forward to seeing that develop here. It's going to take time, whenever you bring in a new system and new coaches, but hopefully, throughout camp and throughout exhibition, the players can adjust to it quickly. Absolutely. Okay, last question. I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but what do you think the theme for this camp would be here? That's a good question. I think with Newsy, with the coaching staff, his attitude. There's a couple words that he wants to focus on. It was attitude and why, and I just think he wants everybody to show up. He wants them to be focused. There's a lot of work to be done because you are incorporating all these new systems. So, the biggest thing now is going to be just work ethic and attitude. And I think just coming to the rink every single day, and not just physically being prepared, but mentally being focused, because there's a lot of different things that these guys are going to have to pick up quickly on. Absolutely. Well, from the coaches to the players, the front office, and someone just reporting on the team, we're all very blessed to be here and super excited for the hockey team. Thank you so much for joining us, Sean. No problem. Thank you. All right, back to you, Daniela.
Thank you, Carly, and a big thank you to Sean Horcoff, Assistant General Manager for your Detroit Red Wings and the General Manager of the Grand Rapids Griffins, so I'm sure he's pumped to be here at training camp watching players that will be on both of the rosters that he oversees. Carly and Sean talked about Cross Hannes, Ken, and Sean talked about the work ethic that he has and the amount of work that he's put in over the summer after having a tremendous year in Portland, putting up some big numbers in the WHL. Excited to see what he can do in the AHL.
Absolutely, and while Carly was talking with Sean Horcoff, I was watching Cross Hannes start a rush and finish the play, and he's just terrific in all areas, and he really impressed me. Out of all the forwards that played in the prospect tournament, he was really a guy that did a lot up front, and not only on a regular shift, but also on the power play. He was one of those guys that was always dangerous when he had the puck. He was shooting the puck from the circles a lot, but he also set up his teammates too. And the other thing about him is, it just seems he had a couple of breakaway goals in the prospect tournament. When he gets chances to score, he usually buries the puck. And that's all good goal scorers have that ability to do that. And he's one of those guys that, to me, really impressed me, not only with his shooting, his accuracy, and force of the shot, but also setting up his teammates. And I think he's going to be a forward to look at down the road for Detroit.
Yeah, and you mentioned that his ability on the power play, he was great on special teams all around. His penalty killing ability was great too. So yes, he scores goals when he has to. He seems to be in the right place at the right time. He makes plays, but doing it at the AHL level is going to be a challenge for him, and I think he's going to do very well.
And for a young player, if he gets an opportunity, let's say down the road, to move up to the big club, sometimes you need to find a niche, you need to find a role, and his role right off the bat could be a specialist on the penalty kill and on the power play, because he's not going to hurt you on the power play, and as you mentioned, he's pretty good on the penalty kill. So that's a good way to get in, earn your stripes a little bit, and then take your regular role on your regular shift.
Ken, we'll bring Carly back into the broadcast in just a second, but while she was down there talking to Sean Horcoff, we saw David Perron in some great positioning in front of the net, scoring a goal for, I think it was Team Red, right? Yep, Team Red. And you looked at me and said, Perron just knows where to be. Describe that for us, Ken.
Well, the rush was in the offensive zone, and he was actually crisscrossing with one of his line mates, and he was just signaling to the line mate to move over from the left to the right so he could get position on the left side, parked himself in the left face-off circle, got the pass, and fired it behind the goaltender. I think it was Sebastian Kosa, but the guy just knows where to be. He's a gifted goal scorer, and he's got that shot, kind of like Brett Hull. Whenever Hull had the opportunity to shoot the puck, you know, he had just so much force, and he could get it off so quickly that he's going to score a lot of goals. David Perron right there is just terrific.
Yeah, he's got a lot of experience, too. His playoff numbers, even last season with the Blues, were great. 13 points in 12 games. So he is definitely going to add to this Red Wings offense and experience and things of that nature. Carly, you talked to Sean Horcoff. Great interview with him.
Yeah.
He has a lot of great insight into what we're going to see in Detroit and Grand Rapids. What was your biggest takeaway?
Brilliant, brilliant guy. But I think what they're really looking forward to this year is something that we've been talking about. It's the depth and the young guys looking to crack either lineup in Grand Rapids or in Detroit, and also just trying to figure out the structure of a new coaching staff. I think he's nothing but excited, and I think it's going to be an exciting camp here, and then preseason is also going to be a good test for these young guys, and to see, like you mentioned, you guys were just talking about, Perrin, have someone older, more of a veteran in the lineup with a lot of these young guys to kind of show them the ropes, I guess I could say, on and off the ice. I'm a little out of breath.
What a play by Zarnik right there.
Yeah, that was a crazy move. If he could pull that off, yeah.
He put that puck behind his back and then flipped the backhand upstairs. That was an unbelievable play.
Another one looking to crack the lineup.
The other thing about Zarnik is that he was the first guy to ever score a goal at Little Caesars Arena. It was a preseason game. The Red Wings played Boston. He was in the Boston organization. But that was an outstanding play right there.
That's a fun fact, Ken.
It looks like they're working on some odd man breakout rushes right now. Seeing a lot of pretty moves, some good passing, and this is the fun part, right? They get to show off their skills a little bit when they don't have the real competition on them.
I hate to be the defenseman out there.
Right?
With the 2-on-1s and some of this talent.
Yeah. Hate to be the defenseman, but mainly the goaltenders. They're really showcasing their talents here. Joe Veleno just went bar down. Is that Kosa?
I'm not sure who that goalie is.
They're taking the heat right now. They don't exactly get a break either in between plays.
Well, back and forth, back and forth.
Exactly.
See, there's a look at cross hands right there. Again, you know, the guy can put the puck in the net.
Sean Horcoff was mentioning that he had the skill and the talent and the drive, but he didn't have the physicality. He put on, he said, about 10 pounds since last year.
And just for the audience to know, right now we're seeing Sebastian Kosa in net in red, and then we've got UC Okanura in net in white. So we're getting a look at two goaltenders right now, and as Carly mentioned, you really wouldn't want to be them in this situation. No. They're getting tested pretty often.
Left and right.
Yeah.
This is Nedeljkovic here.
But Carly, you brought up a good point when you were talking to Sean Horcoff about Okanura, and it seems to me like they're trying to pencil him in for for a spot maybe perhaps with the Grand Rapids Griffins.
That's Alex Nedeljkovic on the right. My bad on that one, guys in red.
Yeah, I mean, solid goaltending is more than important for a hockey team. It starts, what do they say? To build a Stanley Cup team, you got to start from the net and build out.
That's the old adage. The thing is, you have to find the players to do that.
You
That's going to
gotta
win
need
you.
some forwards as well, but and defense, of course.
I really believe the fans are excited about this team because of the fact that you look at the guys that Steve Eisman brought in free agency. Andrew Kopp, we really haven't talked about him. He's injured, and he won't be back until the start of the regular season. But again, to me, that's a non-factor. He knows how to play the game anyway. You don't want him to get hurt in a preseason game, so they're going to be careful with him. But, Kubalik, Dominic Kubalik is a guy that can put the puck in the net, big, strong forward. We mentioned David Perron. We talked about him. Ben Sherratt back there on the blue line. Oli Mata, we didn't really talk about a lot. He's not on Team Del Vecchio right here. But, the fans are excited about this team, the players that they brought in. Of course, the new coaching staff with Derek Lalonde.
You guys, we're getting excited for the preseason. Training camp is underway here in Traverse City, and we are under a couple of weeks away now. Maybe math is not my strong suit. You all know that watching this stream. You all know that. But October 14th is opening night at Little Caesars Arena,
right?
and we're getting really, really excited for it. The last few opening nights have been absolutely electric. Fans have packed the building. Of course, we'll have our red carpet stream, and the players love it. The fans always show out, and it's so exciting. We'll have Montreal in town, so that makes it even more exciting. Again, that's October 14th, and you can get your tickets at DetroitRedWings.com. Carly, you're in the crowd like all game long, and you know how great they've been the past few seasons.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Last season, it just felt like a playoff game
Yeah.
each night. Fans have really showed out for the Detroit Red Wings. Win or lose, I know it isn't always easy, but a Tuesday night, 7:30 game coming out. That's a weekday work night. You have all the fans packed in the arena. It's electric.
What I want to know is, are both of you going to have new outfits this year when you're walking on that red carpet?
Always.
Oh, yeah, of course. Can't be outfit repeaters over here.
It's so hard to pick out the weather in mid-October, though, because sometimes you get like the 50 and rainy, other times you get 80 and sunny. So we'll just have to wait till we get closer to the date for that.
Hope it's the latter. It's pretty cold out there today. Mother Nature said fall, and she really delivered.
Yeah, but you guys should all be out there for opening night. You can get tickets to that game and every game this upcoming season, at DetroitRedWings.com.
How wild, too, to think that the first preseason game is Tuesday, less than a week away.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yep.
And then next week, Wednesday, is a game against the Chicago Blackhawks at Little Caesars Arena.
We'll be there as well.
Good schedule of preseason games, couple games with Toronto, Chicago, Washington, Pittsburgh. So it's a good preseason slate.
Those will be outstanding matchups.
Looks like we're getting some one-on-one battles now. And that is Sebastian Kosa, I believe, in the net to our left in red. He's tall, so I would imagine that is him, right? Just by sheer size. Alex Nedeljkovic in red on the right. But Ken, when you watch drills like this, what are coaches looking for? What are you trying to do here in practice?
Well, first and foremost, I was looking at Derek Lalonde. He has this piece of paper that he pulls out of his pocket, and it's a list of like 20 different things that are written down. And when you only have 45 minutes to an hour to practice, you want to make sure that you get everything down, and you want to cover every area. So far, what we've seen some defensive zone coverage. We've seen some odd man opportunities, 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s, and now we're looking at one-on-one battles right here. So there's little time, but a lot to accomplish when you're the head coach of this team and trying to get as much work as you can for your players and your goaltender.
Yeah, he mentioned yesterday in his presser that they wanted to work on the defensive structure and play of this team and the play without the puck, the defensive play without the puck. So I think that's what they're going to try and work on here. We've seen a lot of defensive zone coverage drills that we've seen here. Coach Lalonde is really stuck to wanting to focus on the defensive play.
I used to love watching one-on-one drills with Pavel Datsyuk because nobody wanted to go one-on-one against him. He'd turn you inside out all the time. He was one of the best.
They used to call those battle drills.
Yeah. Oh, boy. He was something else. But, these one-on-one drills, it's good for both the defender and the forward. So just to work on their game right now. In the end to our right, you have Plandowski and Smith going one-on-one. Now it's a little bit of a Plandowski Cross-Hannes duo right there with Nedeljkovic in goal. So this gives the players an opportunity to work on their game, and both offense and defensively. Big year for Joe Veleno too, because we talked about him. He's had some ups and downs with this team. He's one of those guys really kind of on the bubble right now, and he's looked strong, solid at times, and other times you could tell where he just needed a little more work. But they're counting on him to step it up a little bit. And the other thing too is, you look at Raymond and Sider, and everybody talks about how great their year was, which it was. But now, even as good as they are, they've got to take it up to the next level. And it's not just those guys; it's your veterans as well. And it's always about taking that next step. And the more players that can take that next step up, the better off your team is going to be, and the chances of winning are going to be greater as well.
I asked some of our fans that are watching in the YouTube chat if they had any questions for us. And Carly, you mentioned earlier that we were trying to put together the lineups before we came on the stream, and trying to figure out who goes where with the injuries that we know about is definitely difficult. And I've got a question that says, where do you think Robbie Fabry slots into the lineup when he's healthy? And that was one of the things we were talking about. And I think we had him at the second line winger when he is in fact healthy. But hey, that could all change by that point. Where do you guys think he slots in once he comes back?
That's tough because last year we saw them put the lineups in the blender a few times, and there were a lot of changes that worked.
Yeah.
I would like to see him at that second line, as you mentioned, but hey, you never know. He played really well on that top line with Larkin and Bertuzzi, so I guess, like you said, a lot of things can change.
Yeah.
But second line is kind of where we figured we had him.
Well, right now it looks, if he was healthy, I'd probably have Fabry, Kopp, and Verana, but then where do you put David Perron? Perron's got to fit in there somewhere. So does that mean Verana slides down to the third line and Perron moves to the second line? With Fabry out of the lineup, Daniela, you put Perron in there with Kopp and Verana, then you have a good third line with Suter in the middle between Kobelik and Zadina.
You have to think that Perron is going to be on that second line, right? And who moves down? Without Fabry, I would imagine that it's Perron, Suter, and Verana on that second line. I'm sorry, Kopp and Verana on that second line. But when he does come back, who slides down, or where does Fabry slot in? Maybe Fabry does start out on the third line, or maybe he starts down in the lineup a little bit just to get his bearings again once he comes back. So we'll see how it goes, though.
And that's what I'm almost wondering about Andrew Kopp. Are they going to have him center that second line coming off of abdominal surgery right off the bat in regular season?
Yeah, I think it all depends on how his rehab's going, right? How is he preparing? Is he in game shape? They're not going to put him in unless he can go.
Yeah, there's no rushing injuries in the National Hockey
League. This is where the competition comes in, too, because you have four players that could play on that second line with Perron, Fabry, Kopp, and Verana. And when you move down to a third line, your ice time's not going to be as much as a second line player. And so there's that competition right there to stay on that second line. None of those players want to move down to a third line. I mean, Verana, he wants to play, and Fabry, when he comes back, he was pretty good on the second line. David Perron as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But again, and Carly and Daniela, you talked about depth on this team. That's a good thing because now you're a little bit deeper. And the other thing too is if you do drop down on a third line, you're playing against the other team's third and fourth line.
Yeah.
And so if you're Jacob Verana, maybe you're enjoying that because you're going against lesser competition, so to speak.
Netting them left and right. That is a good problem to have, is that we can't figure out exactly who's going to be on that second line because there are so many good players that could be on that second line. But, yeah, with injuries, you never know what's going to happen to start the season and throughout the season.
That's right. We got another question about the alternate captains, and Ken and I answered this one on one of our streams of the prospect tournament over this weekend on who we think is going to wear the A on their sweater this year. It's a tough decision because there are a lot of veterans now, the guys that Steve Yzerman signed in the offseason, like a David Perron, and he seems like a guy that could very well wear an A and help Dylan Larkin lead this team.
And that's what it seemed like Horcoff was also referencing, is that he's just a good guy to come into the locker room and communicate out on the ice. And I think he'd be a great guy to send up to the refs, too, if there's ever a question of a call. I would give him the A.
What about Mo Seider? Do you give Mo Seider an A on the blue line core?
I think so. You know that I was a hardcore yes on that one. You take one veteran and you take one young guy that can grow with this team and learn how to be a leader under somebody like Dylan Larkin and David Perron. I think that would only benefit him. But again, you want to make sure that person has the experience in the game as well. So is he ready for that next step? That is Steve Yzerman's decision.
Right, yeah. I mean, we can talk all we want. I would personally give Seider another year before giving him a letter. But, like you mentioned, that's a decision for Steve Yzerman.
No, you got to look at Bertuzzi, right, to wear the A, and then what are your choices after that? There's so many players that can lead on this team.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it'll be interesting opening night to see who will wear the letters.
Right. And it's tough to say, too, because we aren't in the locker room in between periods. We don't know who's, outside of Larkin, of course, we don't know who's stepping up to communicate and lead the team if they're down by a goal or communicating out on the ice or on the bench. It seems that the whole team communicates well. So I don't know. I don't think there's a wrong answer here.
I think if you look at Sider, he's really the building block on the blue line, and he's a guy that is going to be out on the ice more than any of the other defensemen, I would imagine, as far as his ice time goes on a game-to-game basis. So if you're going to play 25 minutes a game, you're probably going to wear an A because of the fact you're out there so much. If something happens on the ice, you can be able to talk to the referee about it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, these practices, the best practices, and I saw it with Scotty Bowman's teams back when the Red Wings were winning Stanley Cups, is you want to keep moving. You don't want to be standing around. You want to always be kind of like in game situations. And I know this is a learning day one of training camp. There's a lot of teaching that goes on, but what you want is you want players moving all the time. You want them moving up and down the ice and get that high tempo going, because that's how you play in the game, with high tempo. And teams that, to me, like at a morning skate, that just stand around and shoot the puck, not much is accomplished when you're doing that. You want game-type situations, and that's what Scotty Bowman and his coaching staff brought to the table. They practiced as hard as they played, and I just think that overall that's the best way to practice and the best way to get your team ready for a game.
What do you think you're seeing here under Lalone?
Well, again, day one, there's a lot of teaching going on, but I would imagine come regular season, we're going to see those types of practices where it's high tempo and good pace.
I see some questions in the chat, people asking, where's Ville Husso, where's Dylan Larkin, where's Tyler Bertuzzi? Remember, guys, we are watching Team Del Vecchio right now. Training camp is split up into teams, so those 2 and 3, Ville Husso as well, are not on this roster right now, but hopefully we will see them later in training camp. And of course, we'll be back on Sunday to stream the entire red and white game, which you'll get a good look at everybody who's here at training camp.
Yeah, this is just a third of the guys you'll be seeing.
Right.
Personally, I like when they cut it down and they send the players to Grand Rapids, and then they keep the players that are going to be playing in a majority of the last 4 or 5 preseason games, just because of the fact that you're close to seeing what the team is really going to look like. And right now, almost to me, I mean, you got to have all these teams going out here, but too many players in my estimation. But that's just training camp. Everybody's fighting for a job, and you're trying to get the most out of your players.
Who are you looking forward to seeing the most in preseason to see how he'll play against other teams?
Well, again, I like the young players, and I just want to see how they develop against or play against proven NHL players. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned yesterday, I was talking with Daniela, Sebastian Cossa is a goaltender. I want to see how he performs against guys like David Perron, who can shoot the puck, and Dylan Larkin and Bertuzzi and everybody else. And Cross Hannes is a guy that I was impressed with. Albert Johansson, I want to see him play and see how he plays against, better competition. So to me, it's about the young players. I kind of know the veterans on this team.
Right.
You know what Larkin and Bertuzzi and Verana and Perron and Kubalik are going to bring to the table. The younger guys, I want to see the bubble players too, and see who is really excelling, who got bigger, who got stronger, and who's really ready to take the next step.
No, I couldn't agree with him more.
A couple of goaltenders right there, Cossa for Detroit, and Olkanura. Olkanura is a guy that is from Finland, 6'2", 201 pounds. He's 31 years old, and as you mentioned in your interview with Sean Horcoff, Carly, it looks like they're targeting him to be a goaltender in the American League.
Guys, those of you who tuned into our prospect tournament streams know that we have been able to use a QR code and take some polls throughout our stream. So this one is actually going to be running all the way through the red and white game. So if you can scan the QR code on your screen right now, the question leading into the red and white game is, which new addition are you most looking forward to see this season? And your options are David Perron, Andrew Kopp, Ben Sherratt, and Ville Husso. Who are you guys most excited to see out of that group?
All of them.
Yeah.
All of the above, please.
Yeah, is there a D, all of the above? Or E, I guess.
We're not good at math or numbers, apparently.
You know what I'm loving seeing here right now is how much fun that these guys are having.
Oh, look at that.
You love to see it on day one of
Smith.
That was
camp.
quite the shot, too. Giovanni going backhand.
I'm telling you, I just really feeling for these goalies out there today.
They're doing a little shootout. Here's Ben Sherratt moving in. Oh, tried to go 5-hole and
Shut down.
shut down.
Oh.
Kubalik with a goal right there. That's pretty good. everything's a competition, isn't it? I mean, the white team won right there as far as this small little competition to close out the practice.
So what's going to happen here? Oh, no.
Looks like the red team's going to have to skate now.
Sprints. Oh, man.
That's what
They're not
happens.
laughing
You know,
anymore. They're not having as much fun as they once were.
You know, it's all about competing, right? And it's just a little bit of game at the end of practice where you get a couple of shootout chances, and the team that wins doesn't have to skate. The team that loses, well, you got to do a couple sprints.
A little incentive there.
That's right. Makes it fun, right?
Exactly.
Good thing we don't have to do those sprints, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Mark, if Mark thinks we had a good show, I don't think so. But if not, I wonder
We're
if
gonna
I
be
get
running.
Mark would make me do extra sprints today. He's feeling that.
Mark, my knee is still not up to par.
Well, coaching going on right now as practice is winding down for Team Del Vecchio here. And again, this is a pretty good group that was put together,
Oh,
Danielle and Carly. A lot of good players on this Del Vecchio team.
Another guy we didn't really talk about is Brian Lashoff. I wonder what training camp this is for him.
Yeah, he's such a staple in Grand Rapids, too. Wears the C over there.
Oh, yeah.
And
I mean, he's just one of those guys that can come up to the Detroit Red Wings,
Yeah.
fit right in. But
Yeah, really reliable. You can plug
Yeah.
him in. He's not going to hurt you. You know what he's going to do. He's not going to wow you, but he'll be steady back there on the blue
Right.
line. Do whatever it takes. I still remember his first goal. He scored in the National Hockey League. They called him up, and he just made it to the arena, Nationwide Arena in Columbus, maybe about 15 minutes before the warm-up. Had a chance to warm up, and I think on his first shift he scored a goal, and it made it 1-0 Detroit. He doesn't score many goals, but I'm sure he's going to remember that one.
when he does, he scores them, though.
Let's look at Mo Sider, the solid defenseman, Rookie of the Year for the Detroit Red Wings.
Ken, you mentioned this Calder Trophy winner, Mo Sider, and obviously Lucas Raymond finished fourth in Calder Trophy voting. What do you think they have to do? Because you talked about this. We need them to take another step, right? They need to be just as good, if not better, which is tough to do. Consistency is the tough thing about the NHL. How do they do that?
Well, you worry about the sophomore jinx, and we certainly hope that Raymond and Sider don't have the sophomore
Yeah.
jinx. Now, we did see it a little bit with Dylan Larkin when he first came in. He had a really good rookie year. Second year, he struggled a little bit, and a lot of it is due to other teams knowing exactly how you play, and they shut you down. So you have to somehow find a way to overcome the other team's way of defending you, and you've got to bring it to the next level. So hopefully both Raymond and Sider, if this team is going to improve, they've got to take it to the next level, and so do the other veterans.
Yeah, I think Sider, too, you're going to see him paired, obviously, with a different type of defenseman. We talked about the guys like Ben Sherratt and Oli Mata. These guys are more stay-at-home defensive defensemen, and obviously we've seen Mo Sider's game and how he plays a great style defensively, but he can also translate that offensively, too. And I just think they're going to complement each other very well. So Mo Sider will have somebody to learn from is basically where I'm getting with this one, is that playing next to Ben Sherratt, playing next to an Oli Mata or whoever it is that he's playing next to, he's going to learn from them, and he's going to be able to adapt to the game and learn how to play at the NHL level even more so than he did last year.
Another player that we didn't talk about who's not on Team Del Vecchio right now that I think needs to step up his game too is Philip Hronek. And he's obviously one of the offensive leaders of the Red Wings. And as far as putting the puck in the net, he plays a significant amount of time on the power play. And, you know, over the last several years, he's been one of the mainstays back there on the blue line for Detroit. So if he can elevate the game a little more, and Sider and everybody else, then this team should be better defensively.
Couple more full sheet goals from Philip Hronek, maybe this upcoming season.
Yeah, those empty netters, right? You know, the other thing, too, about Red Wing defensemen, Carly and Danielle, is the fact that if they're not playing well, they can always pick up the phone, talk to Nick Lidstrom,
Oh, man.
Cronwall.
Oh,
you know,
my
these are
gosh.
guys that have made a living, a
resources.
good living in the National Hockey League. And if you really want to learn, all you got to do is just talk to them. So, you know, when you think about the coaching staff, the new coaching staff, obviously there's a lot of new faces. But there's also other faces that are pretty darn good players like Lidstrom and Cronwall that these guys can talk to and really learn from.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about the two of them as well is they were both great defensemen in the NHL, but they were both very different defensemen in the NHL, the style of games that they played. So having both of them to bounce things off of as a young defenseman in the league, I can't think of anything better than that.
No. Not many players have the resources like that. You know, you think of great defensemen who have played in this league, but legends, may I say, to have that kind of opportunity to be able to pick up the phone and pick their brain, that's outstanding.
Well, here's a look at Jordan Osterley right now, and he's one of those guys kind of on the defensive bubble, so to speak. He played, with the Red Wings last year, and he's a guy that's not going to hurt you as well. Pretty offensive-minded, steady back there on the blue line.
The advantage that Jordan Osterley has in making sure that he solidifies a spot on the Red Wings roster is that he's very versatile. We've seen him move up into the forward role when it was needed sometimes last season, and he can do that. They'll put him anywhere in the lineup, and like you said, he's reliable. He's not going to hurt you. He's going to be steady at any position that he's in.
Got a guy, too, like Ben Sherratt, who was right there on the blue line, stick handling with a puck. A lot of teams took liberties sometimes against Detroit, and he's a guy that's a big, solid body that if he has to drop the gloves and go after somebody, he will do it to protect the teammate. So I think you're seeing the Red Wings getting a little more muscle. And, again, teams, when you have certain players like that on your team, teams aren't going to take advantage of other teammates. So I like the fact that Sherratt's back there on the blue line. Of course, Giovanni Smith is a guy that has gotten his share of scraps with the Red Wings. And again, he's one of those bubble players as well.
I got to say Mo as well. He doesn't care if you're Sidney Crosby or who it is.
I haven't really seen him fight, but he's been pushing players around pretty good.
Do you remember
he doesn't have to.
Do you remember when he took the puck from Victor Hedman?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. Bold for a rookie, but we like that. We like that a lot. One player we haven't talked about who is out there with Team Del Vecchio is Michael Rasmussen. He really took jumps in his game, especially in the back half of the season last year. Ken, how do you expect him to come out and kind of continue doing that and develop into a player that he can be? I think people get impatient with Michael Rasmussen, but please remember that he's only 23 years old. He still has a few years to develop into that prime NHL player that he can be.
Well, think about this. He's been with the Red Wings now for, 4 years?
Yeah.
And the first year he was here, he played the entire season because they couldn't send him back to junior. So, he learned on the fly of what it's going to take to play in the National Hockey League. And you're right. I thought he was one of the players that really stepped up the most last year over the course of the season. What I'd really like to see from him is better work on the power play. When he gets opportunities to be on the power play, that was his bread and butter when he was in junior.
Yeah.
He parked himself in front of the net, and he had the ability to tip shots and really make plays in front of the net and score power play goals. If he could add that to his arsenal and really help out as far as generating more offense on the power play, that's only going to make him and the team better.
I interviewed him a couple months ago for Coffee with Carly, presented by Tim Hortons, and
Could use one of those right now.
yeah, exactly.
Could use a couple of them
Warm
right
up the
now.
hands
It's cold in
and get the caffeine going. But as you mentioned, this is one of his best seasons, the best season he's had in the NHL with 15 goals and 12 assists for him. And he said once he started netting them, he got that confidence. And that confidence really took him to the best level he's played at so far. And him being able to float through center and wing, I think that is really also a benefit for the Detroit Red Wings. And himself.
Yeah, he's a big guy, too. So once he really figures it out and how to play with a guy of his stature, he's 6'6". So it takes time to adjust to a body. Yeah, so it takes time to adjust to a body that big and figure out exactly how to use it and how to be successful in doing that.
Another player we really haven't talked about was Donovan Sabrango, and he's been with the Grand Rapids for a couple of years now. And I thought his game really took a step up north as we watched him in the Prospects tournament.
And I got to mention this just because they're together right now. We got Mo and Joe out there.
Mo and Joe.
The dynamic duo.
Mojo show.
That was actually a pretty fun show to watch.
Yeah.
They did a great job. I went out and did summer wings with Joe Volano. There were a couple times we were like, all right, we got to transition to this new spot. And he's like, I'll do it. I got it. So we're here. I'm like, man, you know what?
I think he loves it because Mo takes over for the Mojo show. And
I'll let him have it. I was like, go ahead. You want to host it?
I have a prediction that Mo's going to be a broadcaster when his playing days are over because the kid loves the camera.
You know what? He's pretty funny, too.
Yeah.
He's hilarious.
He does have some quick wit and quick humor, and he's fun to listen to.
That he is.
I remember the first year right after he got drafted. I can't remember if it was development camp, but I saw him at the rink and I was shooting something. He's like, do you want to get me on camera? I was like, do you want to be on camera? This is something different I'm not used to.
Practice winding down here for Team Del Vecchio. still have Berg.
Look at the week ahead for us as this continues. Obviously, training camp will continue through Sunday. We'll wrap things up with the red and white game here at Center Ice Arena. Great news for everybody. Art Regner will be here for the red and white game. We cannot wait to have him back up here. He's so excited to get here. So he'll be here for the red and white game. We'll have a lot of fun with that. And then we talked about preseason, which starts on Tuesday on the road, Wednesday at home against Chicago.
Quick
so
turnaround.
here we go, guys. Here we go.
It's hard to believe it's next week
I
already,
know.
right?
Isn't
crazy.
it wild?
Yeah, you've got four games in 5 nights to start next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and then a lot of games the following week before the Red Wings open up against the Montreal Canadiens. And it's funny that the Red Wings will have 4 or 5 days to practice before getting ready for that opener, and a lot of teams will actually open up 2 days before the Red Wings.
Guys, I got to give some love to our social media team for the Mojo Show. They just said, no love for us,
Did
right?
they text
Yeah.
you?
Oh, yeah, they did. Oh, yeah, they did. We do have to give them some love, though. They're the best in the league, and they do such a great job with everything. It was them that brought it out of Mo and Joe and made the show exactly what it was. So
Yeah.
shout out to you guys. We love you.
Andrew Kristoff, Stacey Remigis, Chris Pop, Michelle Southerby. Got to also give love to Jonathan Mills. That's a great group we have. We're so lucky to have those social admins.
The boss men and boss ladies of the
Oh.
organization.
Doesn't get much better. I'm not being biased whatsoever, but they are the best social team.
I understand
In all
Andrew
sports.
is leading in the football fantasy camp.
Yeah,
How
you
you
know,
doing, Danielle?
I actually am doing terrible. I played Stacy, one of our social admins, who had Stephon Diggs this week, absolutely destroyed me. And Andrew Kristoff drafted all Lions, who is the best offense in the league right now. So good
Week
for
by
him.
week. Week by week.
Good for him.
I bet you didn't know. I'm like the mystery general manager for Andrew's teams. I told him to take all those Lions. so-
Wow. No, you didn't. There's no way you would do that, Ken. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us for our training camp stream today, presented by Huntington Bank. We saw Team Del Vecchio. It was a lot of fun here, opening up training camp. A lot of cool drills that we saw, a lot of skill out there on the ice today. Give me your final thoughts, guys, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Well, looking forward to the next 3 days of training camp. Again, I'm really interested to see how the young goaltenders and young prospects play against the seasoned vets, so to speak. And it's always a good time of the year just to get the cobwebs out, see the new coaching staff, talk with them and some of the newer players on this team, and just get ready for next week because it's going to be a busy opening week of preseason action.
Yeah, absolutely. Just excited, as Ken mentioned, to see some of these younger guys, how they're going to play against some of the veteran players that we have already in the organization. Excited to see who fits where and how they do.
All right, everybody, stay tuned to Red Wing social media for more from training camp here in Traverse City. And, of course, join us on Sunday for the red and white game, and then we'll get preseason going. So we're all really excited. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you Sunday.